The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window as I sipped my coffee, savoring the quiet moment before the day's chaos. Little did I know, the bombshell that was about to drop would shatter my world forever. You know, Elijah's always had a knack for saving for a rainy day, hasn't he? Eudora's casual remark cut through the silence like a knife. Such a shame the kids might not see a dime of it. I froze, the mug halfway to my lips. Wait, Eudora, what are you talking about? What money? Her eyes narrowed, a sly smile playing on her lips. Oh, didn't he tell you? Elijah's been squirreling away funds for years, keeping it all to himself. A cold dread washed over me as the implications sank in. The college funds we'd been meticulously saving for Ethan and Lily, gone? Betrayed by the man I trusted most? The front door slammed, and Elijah strode in, his usual confident swagger faltering when he saw our expressions. What's going on? I rounded on him, fury building with each word. Is it true? Have you been hiding money from us? He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Marianne, it's not what you think. I was just trying to secure our future. Our future? I scoffed. Or yours? How could you do this to our children? Eudora chimed in, her voice dripping with disdain. She never did understand the importance of financial security, did she, Elijah? White-hot anger coursed through my veins as decades of resentment toward my controlling mother-in-law bubbled to the surface. Stay out of this, Eudora. You've meddled enough in our lives. Elijah's jaw tightened, and he stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. Don't speak to my mother that way. She's only looking out for our best interests. Our best interests? I laughed bitterly. Or yours and hers? When have you ever considered what's best for me or the kids? The words hung heavy in the air, exposing the deep cracks in the facade of our perfect family. In that moment, I realized how little control I truly had over my life, my children's futures, even my own happiness. But as I looked into Elijah's cold, unapologetic eyes, a newfound determination took root within me. I would not be a passive bystander any longer. It was time to fight for what was rightfully ours and reclaim the life we deserved. The battle lines were drawn, and there would be no turning back. As the dust settled from our explosive confrontation, memories of the early days of my marriage came flooding back, a stark contrast to the present turmoil. I was a young, ambitious woman back then, fresh out of college with a promising career ahead of me. But when Elijah proposed, swept up in the whirlwind of love and dreams for our future, I made the difficult choice to leave my job and support his entrepreneurial aspirations. Elijah, I left my job to support your dreams, I had said, my voice laced with uncertainty. Why can't we make decisions together? He had cupped my face in his hands, his eyes brimming with adoration. I'm doing what's best for all of us, Marianne. Trust me. And I did. Foolishly, I trusted him, believing that our partnership was built on mutual respect and shared goals. Little did I know that the seeds of discord had already been sown, planted by the ever-present shadow of Eudora, Elijah's overbearing mother. From the moment I stepped into their lives, she made it clear that I would never be good enough for her precious son. Every decision I made, every opinion I voiced, was met with thinly veiled disdain and criticism. A woman's place is in the home, supporting her husband, she would sneer, her words cutting deeper than any knife. Elijah, ever the dutiful son, would nod along, his allegiance firmly rooted in his mother's twisted ideals. As the years passed, Eudora's influence only grew stronger, seeping into every aspect of our lives like a insidious poison. She dictated how we raised our children, how we spent our money, even how we decorated our home. And Elijah, blinded by his devotion to her, allowed it all to happen, slowly stripping away my autonomy and sense of self-worth. The resentment festered within me, a bitter seed that took root and grew with each passing day. I had sacrificed so much for this family, only to be treated like a mere accessory, a trophy wife to be paraded around and controlled. But now, in the wake of Elijah's ultimate betrayal, that resentment had blossomed into a burning rage, fueling my determination to reclaim what was rightfully mine. No longer would I be a passive bystander, allowing Eudora and Elijah to dictate the course of my life. It was time to fight back, to shed the shackles of their oppression and forge my own path, no matter the cost. As I look back on the early strains of our marriage, I realize that the cracks had been there all along, hidden beneath the veneer of domestic bliss. And now those cracks had shattered wide open, exposing the ugly truth that had been festering for far too long. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. The cracks in our once idyllic family life grew wider with each passing day, as Elijah's domineering nature seeped into every aspect of our children's lives. It started with our son, Ethan. Brilliant and driven, he had always marched to the beat of his own drum, much to Elijah's chagrin. "Ethan, you're meant to take over the business one day," Elijah would declare, his voice brooking no argument. "It's your legacy." But Ethan, ever the free spirit, would shake his head defiantly. "Dad, I have my own dreams. Why can't you understand that?" Elijah's jaw would tighten, his eyes flashing with barely concealed anger. "Don't be foolish, son. This is your destiny, whether you like it or not." I would watch these exchanges with a sinking heart, powerless to intervene as Elijah crushed our son's aspirations under the weight of his own ambitions. And then there was Lily, our sweet, sensitive daughter, who longed for nothing more than her father's approval and affection. "Daddy, did you see the painting I made for you?" she would ask, her eyes shining with hope. But Elijah would barely spare her a glance, his mind already consumed by thoughts of work and business deals. "That's nice, dear," he would mutter distractedly, before turning his attention back to his ever-present laptop. Lily's shoulders would slump, her face falling as she realized once again that she was an afterthought in her father's world. It broke my heart to see the light in her eyes dim a little more with each dismissal, but Elijah remained oblivious, too consumed by his own selfish desires to notice the pain he inflicted on our children. And through it all, Eudora's poisonous influence lingered, whispering in Elijah's ear, feeding his ego and reinforcing his belief that he alone knew what was best for our family. "They need a strong hand to guide them, Elijah," she would croon. "You can't let them stray from the path you've set." Elijah would nod, his jaw set in grim determination, and I would watch helplessly as he tightened his grip on our children's lives, suffocating their dreams and individuality with his iron fist. But as the resentment and anger simmered within me, I knew that I could no longer stand idly by. My children deserved better than a life of oppression and unfulfilled potential. It was time to take a stand, to break free from the shackles of Elijah's control and reclaim our lives no matter the cost. As I looked at Ethan's defiant eyes and Lily's crestfallen expression, I vowed to myself that I would not let them become casualties in Elijah's war for dominance. This was my family, my life, and I would fight tooth and nail to protect it, even if it meant going to war with the man I had once loved. The tension in our household had reached a boiling point, and it all came to a head during one fateful family dinner. As we gathered around the table, the air was thick with unspoken resentments and simmering anger. Elijah sat at the head of the table, his face a mask of stern authority, while Eudora hovered nearby, her beady eyes watching my every move like a hawk. Ethan and Lily exchanged uneasy glances, sensing the impending storm. I tried in vain to maintain a semblance of normalcy. "Lily, how was school today?" Before she could answer, Eudora cut in with a derisive snort. As if she'd have anything worthwhile to say, "The girl's as dull as a doorknob." Lily's face fell, and I felt a surge of protective fury rise within me. "Eudora, please stop undermining my decisions with the kids." Her eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward, her voice dripping with contempt. "As if you've made any good decisions. You're just as useless in this family as you were in Elijah's business." The words hung in the air like a slap, and I recoiled as if struck. Elijah remained silent, his jaw clenched, offering no defense against his mother's cruelty. Something inside me snapped, years of pent-up frustration and resentment bubbling to the surface. "How dare you speak to me like that in my own home?" I snarled, slamming my fist on the table. "You've meddled in our lives for far too long, Eudora." Eudora's eyes widened in mock surprise. Oh, the little woman finally grew a backbone, did she? Elijah's chair scraped against the floor as he rose to his feet, his face flushed with anger. "Don't speak to my mother that way, Marianne. She's only looking out for our best interests." I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow and mirthless. "Our best interests, or yours and hers? When have you ever considered what's best for me or the kids?" The words hung heavy in the air, exposing the deep cracks in the facade of our perfect family. Ethan and Lily sat frozen, their eyes darting between us like spectators at a tragic play. Elijah's nostrils flared, and he leaned across the table, his voice low and menacing. "Don't question my authority in this household, Marianne. I am the head of this family, and my word is law." In that moment, I saw him for what he truly was, a man consumed by his own ego, blinded by his mother's twisted influence, and willing to sacrifice everything, even his own children, in pursuit of power and control. And as I looked into his cold, unyielding eyes, I knew that our marriage, our family, had reached a point of no return. The illusion had shattered, and there was no going back. The battle lines were drawn, and I would fight to the bitter end, no matter the cost. In the aftermath of the disastrous family dinner, a cold, hard resolve took root within me. I had given everything for this family, my career, my dreams, my very sense of self, only to be belittled and betrayed at every turn. No more. As Elijah stormed off, Eudora's poisonous laughter ringing in his wake, I knew that I could no longer stand idly by. It was time to take matters into my own hands and uncover the full extent of his deception. Late at night, when the house was still, I would slip into Elijah's study, rifling through his meticulously organized files and records. At first, the evidence was sparse, a few suspicious transactions here, a discrepancy in the books there. But as I dug deeper, a more sinister pattern began to emerge. Hidden offshore accounts, falsified financial statements, embezzlement on a massive scale. The man I had once loved, the man I had sacrificed everything for, was nothing more than a fraud, a master manipulator who had been bleeding our family dry for years. With each new revelation, my anger and determination grew, fueling me to dig deeper, to leave no stone unturned in my quest for the truth. "I've given everything for this family," I muttered to myself, clenching my fists around the damning evidence in my hands. "I won't let him destroy the kids' futures, too." Ethan and Lily's faces flashed before my mind's eye. Ethan, his dreams of independence crushed under the weight of his father's expectations. Lily, her spirit slowly withering from years of neglect and dismissal. They deserved better. We all did. And so, armed with the truth, I began to formulate a plan. A counterattack that would not only expose Elijah's lies, but dismantle his carefully constructed web of control once and for all. No longer would I be the meek, submissive wife, cowering in the shadows of his domineering presence. This was war, and I would fight with every ounce of strength I possessed to protect my children and reclaim the life that had been stolen from me. As I pored over the incriminating documents, my mind raced with possibilities, strategies, and contingencies. I would need allies, people I could trust to stand by my side when the inevitable confrontation came. Ethan and Lily would be my first line of defense. They deserved to know the truth about their father, to understand the depths of his betrayal. Together, we would form an unbreakable united front, a force to be reckoned with. And then, when the time was right, I would strike, unleashing a torrent of revelations that would shatter Elijah's carefully cultivated facade and bring his empire crumbling down around him. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more living in fear of a man who had proven himself unworthy of my loyalty or my love. As I clutched the damning evidence in my hands, a sense of grim determination washed over me. This was the point of no return, the moment where I would take back control of my life and my family's future. And Elijah would soon learn that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. With the damning evidence in hand, I knew it was time to confront Elijah and shatter the illusion of our perfect family once and for all. I found him in his study, poring over financial reports with a furrowed brow. As I entered, he glanced up, his expression hardening when he saw the steely resolve in my eyes. "Marianne," he said, his tone clipped. "What is it now?" I didn't mince words. "Elijah, I found everything, the hidden accounts, the embezzlement. You've been deceiving us all." For a moment he froze, his mask of indifference slipping as the realization of his exposed lies sank in. But then, just as quickly, he regained his composure, leaning back in his chair with a condescending smirk. "You wouldn't understand, Marianne," he scoffed. "It's too complicated for you." Rage bubbled within me at his dismissive tone, his utter lack of remorse. "Don't patronize me, Elijah. I understand perfectly well. You've been stealing from our family, jeopardizing our children's futures for your own selfish gain." His eyes narrowed, and he leaned forward, his voice low and menacing. Everything I've done has been for this family, to secure our legacy, our power. Our power? I laughed bitterly. Or yours and Eudora's? When have you ever considered what's best for me or the kids? His jaw tightened at the mention of his mother's name, and I knew I had struck a nerve. Don't bring my mother into this. She's the only one who truly understands what it takes to build an empire. In that moment, the truth became painfully clear. Elijah's actions, his manipulation, his utter disregard for our family's well-being had all been fueled by his mother's relentless meddling and his own insatiable hunger for power. You're a fool, Marianne, he spat, rising from his chair. You've never appreciated the sacrifices I've made, the lengths I've gone to protect what's ours. Protect? I shook my head in disbelief. You've done nothing but destroy. Our marriage, our family, our children's futures, all sacrificed on the altar of your ego and Eudora's twisted ambitions. His face contorted with rage, and for a moment I feared he might strike me. But then, just as quickly, the storm passed, and he straightened his tie, regaining his composure. You'll never understand, Marianne, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. You're too weak, too emotional. This is the real world, and in the real world, only the strong survive. As he brushed past me, his shoulder colliding with mine in a deliberate show of dominance, I felt something shift within me. The fear, the doubt, the years of subjugation, they all melted away, replaced by a burning determination to take back what was mine. Elijah might have thought he held all the cards, but he had underestimated me for the last time. I was done playing by his rules, done living in the shadow of his manipulation and Eudora's poisonous influence. It was time to fight back, to dismantle their twisted empire brick by brick and reclaim the life and family they had stolen from me. The battle lines were drawn, and I would emerge victorious, no matter the cost. In the wake of my confrontation with Elijah, a newfound determination took root within me. I would no longer be a passive bystander, allowing him and his mother to dictate the course of our lives. It was time to take action. I knew that dismantling Elijah's web of lies and manipulation would require more than just my efforts alone. I needed allies, people who shared my resolve and understood the depths of his betrayal. And so, I turned to the two people who mattered most, Ethan and Lily. Gathering them in the living room, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the difficult conversation ahead. Kids, there's something you need to know about your father, I began, my voice steady, despite the turmoil churning within me. Ethan's brow furrowed, while Lily's eyes widened with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. What is it, Mom? Ethan asked, leaning forward in his chair. I didn't mince words. Your father has been lying to us for years. He's been embezzling money, hiding assets, putting his own selfish desires above our family's well-being. A heavy silence hung in the air as the weight of my words sank in. Lily's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But why? She whispered, her voice trembling. How could he do this to us? I shook my head, my heart aching for the pain I knew this revelation would cause them. It's a long, complicated story, but the bottom line is that we can't trust him anymore. He's been manipulating us all, influenced by his mother's twisted ambitions. Ethan's jaw clenched, and I could see the anger simmering behind his eyes. That's why he's been pushing me to join the business, isn't it? To further his own agenda? I nodded, reaching out to squeeze his hand. I'm afraid so, sweetheart, but we don't have to play by his rules anymore. A determined gleam flickered in Ethan's gaze, and he straightened his shoulders. What do you need us to do, Mom? In that moment, I felt a surge of pride and gratitude for my children's unwavering support. We might have been fractured and beaten down by Elijah's manipulations, but in that moment, we were a united front, a force to be reckoned with. We're going to expose him, I said, my voice ringing with conviction. We're going to bring his lies into the light and dismantle his control over this family once and for all. Lily nodded, her eyes hardening with resolve. He's hurt us for the last time. I'm in. Ethan mirrored her determination. Count me in too, Mom. It's time we took our lives back. As we began to strategize, plotting our counterattack against Elijah's twisted empire, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. For too long, I had been the victim, the helpless bystander, in my own life. But no more. With my children by my side, I was a force to be reckoned with. A woman scorned, yes, but also a mother fiercely protective of her family's well-being. And Elijah would soon learn that he had underestimated us all for the last time. The battle lines were drawn, and we would emerge victorious no matter the cost. With Ethan and Lily by my side, our united front solidified. It was time to bring Elijah's twisted empire crumbling down around him. We had spent weeks meticulously planning our counterattack, gathering evidence and strategizing our approach. The day of reckoning arrived, and we called an impromptu family meeting, ensuring that Eudora would be present as well. As they filed into the living room, Elijah's brow furrowed at the sight of our grim expressions. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve. "It's time for the truth to come out, Elijah. We know everything. The embezzlement, the hidden accounts, the lies." His face paled as the realization dawned, but he quickly regained his composure, shooting a venomous glare in my direction. "You've gone too far this time, Marianne." Ethan stepped forward, his jaw set in determination. "No, Dad, you're the one who's gone too far. How could you betray us like this? Jeopardize our futures for your own greed?" Elijah's nostrils flared, and he turned to Eudora, seeking her support. "Mother, tell them they're being ridiculous. You know I've only ever had this family's best interests at heart." But Eudora remained silent, her eyes downcast, unable to meet our accusing stares. Lily's voice trembled as she spoke, years of pent-up hurt and resentment bubbling to the surface. "Was any of it real, Dad? Or were we just pawns in your game for power and control?" Elijah's mask of indifference slipped, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something akin to regret in his eyes. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by the familiar arrogance and disdain. "You're all fools," he spat, his voice dripping with contempt. "You have no idea the sacrifices I've made, the lengths I've gone to secure our legacy." I shook my head, my heart heavy with the weight of his betrayal. "Your legacy? Or Eudora's twisted vision of what our family should be? When did you ever stop to consider what we wanted, what dreams we had for ourselves?" Elijah opened his mouth to respond, but I held up a hand, cutting him off. "No more lies, Elijah. It's over. We're done living in the shadow of your manipulation and deceit." Turning to Ethan and Lily, I felt a surge of pride and determination. This is the start of a new chapter for us, one where we value honesty and mutual respect above all else. Lily's eyes shone with unshed tears, but her voice was steady as she spoke. "Mom, we believe in you. We're ready to rebuild together as a family." In that moment, as Elijah's empire crumbled around him, his carefully cultivated facade of power and control shattered, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The years of oppression, the sacrifices, the pain, it had all been worth it to reach this moment of liberation. As Elijah stormed out, his pride in tatters, I knew that our journey was far from over. Rebuilding our lives, healing the wounds inflicted by his betrayal, would be a long and arduous process. But for the first time in decades, I felt truly free. Free from the shackles of his manipulation, free from the toxic influence of Eudora's meddling, free to forge my own path and reclaim the life that had been stolen from me. And as I looked into the eyes of my children, their love and support shining through, I knew that we would emerge from this trial stronger than ever before. A family united by truth, resilience, and an unbreakable bond that no force, not even Elijah's twisted ambitions, could ever hope to sever.